My name is Lieven, and I'm glad to be here to share some of the practices and experiences that I had with process mining during internal audits. But first, let me just briefly describe the company where this process took place in. So it is within the Atlas Copco group. We take pride in that we are a decentralized group, so we are big, but we are split up into 4 business areas. The business areas determine the strategy and the objectives that they have to have within their business area. And then we have 23 divisions spread over those business areas. And the divisions, they have a global responsibility for a certain service offering or product offering. We have the 23 divisions, and these divisions, they work through product companies, which are production sites that make development of products, marketing, and also the manufacturing itself. They have distribution centers, and they have customer centers that are the face to the customer. We have 68 brands, so that we bring to market, and we are a really global company because we believe that we want to be close to the customer. So we have R&D close to the customer, manufacturing close to the customer, and our sales is also close to the customer. And where I'm going into this is in our Belgian company. There we have I went into and did some internal audit. So this is the site, that's Atlas Copco Air Power in Belgium. It's a big site, it's spread over 2 municipalities, but it's more than that. It's the headquarters of 2 of our business areas, headquartered of 7 divisions, and there are 4 product companies. So that means actually 4 production sites are on that site. Also 1 distribution center, and then a number of internal service providers. And it's this, so they use the software where I dove into, and those are tackled as all kind of different companies. So I have 2 projects that I wanted to share. The first one is using project mining for optimizing a process where I dove into. And I will briefly sketch the process. So the first process is invoice and match. So from invoice, getting it in until it's ready for payment. It starts with the supplier sending an invoice. This can be an e-invoice, a PDF via mail, or even paper invoices still. Then we call it internal post because it's traditionally called like that. But okay, there is not much internal post anymore there. But for invoices, they are handled via XML. The PDFs, they are via OCR, they are processed and put into the system. And if it's really a paper invoice, then somebody still needs to scan it and then OCR it so that it comes into the system. It comes into our system, and then from our ERP, the data is enriched with all kinds of information that can be useful in handling the invoice. And of course, also the system sends back data to the ERP, being here is an invoice that we received. If everything goes well, the invoice comes in, reception is done, then there it stops. It's booked and ready for payment. Now, one of the big issues is that with the electronic invoicing, the invoices are faster into our system than we receive the goods. So we put a goods in transit buffer in between. And that's with, for instance, data that's enriched by our ERP. There we have, it's this supplier, goods from him take that long to come there, and it's waiting. And then if everything within that time slot is booked, then again it goes to the ERP, nobody sees it. When it surpasses that, then it goes to our functional departments. And then they have to control, take action, make an approval, and it goes back to the ERP system. To make it a bit more complex, so this process is done in different countries. So the The functional departments are in 10 different countries and 27 companies are using it, of which many, like all the business areas on the air power side, are over there, and they have to talk with our accounts payable who is in our Brno side. So there is a lot of chance of miscommunication. So, and that was where we found that process mining it made the facts more visible. So the first thing I had to do was do some filtering. My first approach was if I'm going there, what is the standard of an invoice? The invoice ID. So we took that. We saw there a lot of issues there because, of course, suppliers can use the same invoice ID. So we have to find a workaround from that. Suppliers can use the same invoice ID. The same supplier in different years can reuse the same invoice ID. So you can have that. And then some topics regarding legacy systems. Our ERP system only takes 10 digits for an invoice. So we have to cut off a part to get it in there. So you have to do a workaround there as well. So in the end, I found the best way to do it is I took indeed the invoice ID, but then add it to the supplier ID, and then to cover the same supplier having 2 times the same invoice, also the amount. Chance is very small that they invoice exactly the same amount. And that was then finally the case ID. So that was my first learning where I had to do a lot of figuring out in the process. What I did then was, okay, I knew how the process flowed. What does our management want to know? I defined some key metrics and tried to take that out of towards our management. So like there was there the happy flow. That's something everybody wants to know. As I said, the system is used by our Brno and our functional departments in air power. So I made, okay, if it's not a happy flow, if the functional departments don't need to do anything, let's take that and show those percentages. And as you see, those percentages are not good. Now, we come to that later further. I also made a topic like the duration to put on there the median. We use a lot the average, the mean, but with medium at least you're sure that you're in half, that half is better and half is worse. So while with mean, yeah, you get a figure, but what is that exactly saying? And then I took some days, a number of cases longer than a certain time slot. Focus there is the 30 days, because one of our lowest payment terms is 30 days end of month. So if we go over the 30 days, then we know that there could be issues with paying in time. And I took the 50 days as half. Because the air power side is so complex, I also presented for the different companies in there how many were booked in the wrong company. So this is what I presented to management to learn there. You can imagine with a happy flow that there were some discussions because it's so low. And then I had to explain them why it was so low. So I will go in depth in 3 things, the happy flow, the closed without air power, and the cases longer than 30 days. First, there was the happy flow. I run the process and I could nowhere find in there the goods in transit. If you then do some more discussions with the people, what was the case? We use a software as a service application for this invoice processing. Goods in transit is nowhere to be seen in there. It's, what they did in the end was, because they wanted to have something in there for the people, they put a filter on their inbox. So they can say good in transit with the days that we have in our ERP, but then and then they see less invoices in their inbox, but they are still sent to those people. So for us, we see nothing. And then in the end, if, for instance, they forgot to do a reception, they say, yeah, you do the reception, but you keep the invoice in your inbox and the system will pick it out. So this is the same. So with this, I could go to management. Yeah, it's 33%, but it's actually not that bad. We have the goods in transit. And later on, I will show, yeah, we can work around it, but it takes some creativity to dive into that. The second one is the closed without air power, because for our management in the functional departments, that's still good enough. If their people don't need to do anything about it, they're happy. And that I did by using the filters. I knew which steps are done by our functional departments, selected them, say they are forbidden, and then I got a percentage. But of course, here the same, the issue, the goods in transit completely derails it. So one of the big things that I told to our management, if you do iterations on the system, think about how can we log these goods in transit, because we are missing valuable information here. It's not that straightforward. They didn't implement it yet because it's a SaaS solution, but at least they know it and the product owner knows it, that if they do iterations, that's something they have to look for. The other metric was then more about, okay, using it to talk to people. So I dive into over the 30 days. So I made an overview that I got with the enrichment of process mining, which top 10 suppliers are over 30 days. I did an export to Excel. By now I know you can do it differently, but by then I didn't know. At that moment I didn't know. And took the top suppliers to see, okay, what can we learn from these suppliers? And I did the same thing for the top 10 people. Not to go and punish them, but to know with who do we have to talk, what are their problems. And one of the big advantages that I had was that the second person on the list, my manager asked, he came to complain with my manager, he says he has too many invoices, can you help him? Okay, I will dive into that. First, see, is that true? Does he have too many invoices? And then with the system and so on, I could show, he gets in that period more than 3,500 invoices that he has to handle. He told to me, when I get the invoices, the only thing I do is I wait until they're nearly overdue, and when I see they are going to go overdue, then I handle them. Okay, that's an issue. And then we see, and then I also made the analysis when I jumped in, how many did he close and I close. So we see there is something in the setup. He's really overwhelmed. He cannot see the ones that he really needs to handle. First question I asked him, do you know about the goods in transit filter? No, okay, I explained it to him, but that didn't really help. So then we took a look specifically for him to the number of suppliers, and then I could start asking more dedicated, because I have a lot of invoices, but he couldn't really name what are the problems. I could say, okay, that first supplier, what's the problem there? And I talked to him about it. I said, that supplier, nothing is wrong with that invoice, but I have to send it back. And then it gets booked somewhere. I said, I told it to accounting, but nobody does something about it. So I asked, okay, maybe you should not talk to accounting, but to IT. IT, what's wrong with that? And they found, so a supplier which is on e-invoicing, so automatically in the system, that they made a bug on their e-invoice. So they solved the bug, less invoices for him. But that still was not the whole story. So he still saw a lot of invoices, and the filter didn't help him. So I thought, with this good in transit, I need to do something, but let's do it the other way around. It was not with the 33% that our factories are in panic and that goods are not arriving and so on. So I assumed, let's take 80% of the material will arrive in time, 20% might not. So let me look, what is the timing that they need to be processed when you are around that 80%. And then you saw, okay, when I get to 6 days, 78% is covered. When I had to go to over the 80%, I needed to go to 12 days. So I talked to the buyer of those goods. Maybe we should put the goods in transit time for this product on 6 days. While in the system, for this supplier, it was 2 days. And then he will see a lot less because they will be handled automatically. And we did it for a number of suppliers, so to reduce the effort in his inbox. So I hope now that he's still happy with the changes we made. I haven't heard my previous manager anymore that I need to help him again. And the next topic was then, because we did this exercise, the application owner of the other part in the system, which is purchase to pay, came to me and said, I want to know, I heard that you're doing process mining, I want to know how good is my process, where do I need to work on? So I had a discussion with him for an hour that we discussed what do you want to know, and with what I in the meanwhile learned from process mining. And it was this process that he wanted to go through. A requester makes a request. It's reviewed by several people depending on what and how it is requested. Then it goes to a hierarchy approval, and then it's automatically put into a PO, sent out automatically to the supplier, And then when the goods come in, somebody sends a notice and the requester picks it up. And it then goes to archiving and the goods are ready for invoicing, so that was our previous process. We arrived after talking to 5 questions that he said, okay, and what I said, what I could see possible with process mining, he had probably a lot more questions, but not all of the questions you can answer with process mining, a lot, but not everything. So we came to 5 questions, a number of performance, where I will look into the first one, and the last one is what's the benefit of automating? It's post-calculation exercise. So they automated a step in the process, the sending of the purchase order, and those 2 I will look into. So the first he wanted to know is the timing of his complete flow, and yeah, I made that up. And when I saw that, I thought something is wrong here. And yeah, in principle, you see there the big bottleneck. It's the goods receipt. But if you then go and start thinking what's in that process, yeah, we buy off-the-shelf goods that are delivered within a day, but we also buy full machines which take a year or longer to deliver. And then you see the goods receipt are over a year. So actually, we found out this is not the right question that we asked during the process. So we switched the question around, which was more relevant for this. How much time does it take from a requisition to the purchase order being sent? And there we could, and I made some screenshots. I took it from 5 days. I didn't work. I know that you can work in process mining with the work days. I didn't do it. I just made it here in the filter 5, which is the number of work days, 7, work week, 14, 2 weeks, 30 days. I asked him afterwards, do I need to change? I said, no. He said, no, it's good enough. I can work with that. I will dive deeper into these cases. And now he got a training for process mining himself, so he can dive himself in the cases. So this was good for him. And on the other topics, we gave similar answers. And then the last question was, yeah, I asked him, okay, what was the date of your switchover? And then I made a calculation out of that. Yeah, I took 3.66 days, that step. There are orders that take longer than 2 days and even orders that take longer than 14 days. While the only thing that the purchaser has to do is send, because one of the reasons why they wanted to automate is that because all the purchasers said, we don't have added value in this step. The only thing is we do is press a button. So I made the analysis then, and yeah, they took off a day. But more importantly, I find that more importantly, all the extreme weighting is taken out, because extreme weighting for no added value, that's just an internal person who is frustrated that his goods are not received. Now, so those were my projects. I just wanted to share what I used from tools. So it's a cycle: data preparation, process mining, and data visualization. For data preparation, I used SQL Server because our data is in SQL, but I also used Jupyter Notebooks with Python. The reason why I used that was for reproducibility. You have to switch the data, and if after a few months they want to ask, can you do this again, then I still want to know why I did this, because you're so many projects later. So that's why I use that. For process mining itself, I use Disco. And then for data visualization, I took a bit the lazy route. I took Excel and PowerPoint. PowerPoint because when I show something to our managers, then they can just take the slide and drop it in their slideshow. And Excel to arrange tables and graphs. I know you can do it in Python as well, but I was more accustomed with Excel, so that was quicker. And then finally, the takeaway that I want to give is that actually we should not look at, that was my finding. I am not an internal auditor today, and I was not when I did these exercises. I had another role in the company. But my main takeaway is that actually everybody can be an internal auditor, that we can, that everybody can work to let the facts speak for them and to improve their work, the work of their colleagues, and also the overall performance of the company. Thank you. And that's...
I like that statement a lot. Everyone can be an internal auditor. We have a lot of auditors in the audience, so I'm curious if anyone has a question for Lieven. We will get the microphone to you. 1 second.
Hi. I have a question with regard to the metrics extraction. So how did you do that? Did you base that solely on Disco? And also, when you had the metrics, did you also implement a, let's say, cycle of continuous monitoring and improving the metrics?
Yeah, no, that's so the cycle we didn't implement yet. One of the main drivers was that we had a senior manager who believed in process flow and process mining a lot and said, I want to do more. He wanted to do an investigation. So the first project that you saw was actually for them a use case that they could show this is very useful to use. So there was not yet an implementation, and I left before, so maybe now, in the meanwhile, they have done their records that they will follow up afterwards. But that was mainly why I took also my reproducibility, because if they came back to me and said, yeah, we want to do it over again, that I could easily take exactly the same steps and from the baseline that I made see, okay, what is it now?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your presentation. Did I understand it correctly that it was like one-time analysis that you performed? And in that case, I wonder if there is a plan in the organization to have to connect the data sources and somebody who continuously monitor.
Yeah, we have a plan in the organization. I mean, we have a lot of data sources. They are covered. There are more dashboards than I can count that we follow up. For us, the process mining was more that they wanted to learn, okay, what can that add extra value to the KPIs we have, and can we learn, maybe we are looking to the wrong KPIs. Like I put the 80-20 there, Pareto, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Pareto. It's good because you can quickly do things, but one of the big risks is that you put a lot under the mat, and then, yeah, I don't know, under the carpet, thank you, yeah, under the carpet. And then you have a big pile and you lump over the carpet when you step. And that is the thing that I found with process mining, and what I also wanted to bring, is that it's a very easy tool to dive also into that and improve that part. So there are a lot of benchmarks. For us, it's mainly, now I hope that they are doing some, but I left that department where I did the exercises. I know from the second part, for instance, that's a colleague. I showed him the data, and he now learned process mining for himself to be able to work and see what I do, what does that improve in the system. So there is a plan, but as I said before, we are a decentralized organization, so it's a bit every organization in its own that is doing this work. And because that's one of the main drivers, so I also wanted to come for the how can you embed that in the organization, because I now left it and I want to learn more. How can we build actually a community of process mining people within our company? I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. We have the same challenge in our organization.
Any other questions? No.
There was one question there.
Thank you. You kind of touched on this in the last question, but I was going to ask, being such a decentralized organization, have you experienced any roadblocks with consolidating data from across the globe?
Consolidating data is for us not the main problem. We are fairly well set up. I mean, for instance, this is a SaaS solution, so our organization really thinks about data. This is a SaaS solution. I know it's very difficult to get data out of SaaS solutions, but in our contract negotiation with the supplier, we said, there is no question, if you want us to use your software, you have to mirror the data from our company to our servers so we can dive into it. So in principle, I only took AirPower, but for all these 10 countries and 27 companies that are in there, we have all the data.
Okay, thank you.
Any last question for Lieven? Yes, we have. Get the microphone.
Yeah, I was wondering, how much do you depend on IT for getting the data for input in Disco?
For this?
Yeah.
Not. I don't. I did everything myself.
Oh, you did everything yourself?
Yeah. Now I know this is, for me it's a luxury problem that I have. I can do it. I think for me I could do very quick iterations because of that. Because yeah, I use SQL. I did only limited sets, but sometimes you need to combine tables. But when you need to work with IT, it will take time because yeah, you will get a data set. It's not okay. You have to go back and redesign because I saw it by doing. Oh, I still need that information. I just did some calls. The only thing where I sometimes used IT was to pick up my phone, call somebody I knew is in that organization, which tables are used, and then I could access it, or I had to request access, but I quickly got it.
And for the access, you used that SQL?
Yeah, so for the access, most of the data is in SQL for us. And then, I only did limited data selection in there, just to trim off, for instance, from where we started to view the data. Because, yeah, okay, that you can easily document in your SQL, but then why I did step X by cleaning up the data or throwing something out, therefore I used Jupyter, because then I noted in the markdown, I did this for that reason, so that afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, that's a luxury problem, yeah.
And you left the company, or you had a different role?
No, I have a different role now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In which I also used already process mining, but yeah. So.
Okay, thank you.
A quick question. Usually, P2P is the one process auditors look into process mining. Is there anything else just to add, especially for dynamic processes are changing?
Yeah, in my new role now, I had to do a review of the labor accidents or near misses, so we have a software for that. And I also did process mining and audit on that, and gave a recommendation on that. Now, you see there the big difference. I think in purchase to pay, for instance, they are really more process mining. Everything is stamped up because it's figures. In accidents, we also have a process. It's followed, but we have much less stamps, and you have to be more creative. But I think you can use it in everything. It's in your pocket knife, and you can just say, okay, does it make sense to do it here, yes or no?
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. So I have one last question. So you mentioned this person who actually was second or third in the list of the people that you analyzed who had a lot of workload, high workload, and then they came to you and they wanted your help. I mean, that's the ideal situation, right? They come to you, they want your help, so they're there, they have the domain knowledge, you can together sit with them and really look at, okay, what is the root cause to get to the bottom of it? I'm curious, did you also, in all these projects that you did, encounter some people who were not asking for your help and who were maybe a little bit reluctant, you had to convince, or did you not experience this?
Not in this case with process mining, but yeah, I did, because one of the other projects that when my manager asked to help that person, and for him it was a golden opportunity. We saw everything with facts what was happening, but he also asked me to do old invoices, and some people are not interested, or it's too difficult. Yeah, you always have that. I mean, but I think the big benefit is that here you can talk with facts, and that in a lot of cases. And I also think the big difference is if you go to people to follow up, and whether it is you're really an internal auditor or you take up the role as internal auditor, I think it's never to punish the people. It's always, how can I help? That should be the question that you ask. Not, why are you doing this so slow or so bad? No, we notice in the system that this takes time with you. How can we help? And if you do that, then you take already away a lot of. I also can imagine that it depends on the process you're diving into.
Okay, thank you. Let's thank Lieven once more.